Welcome, welcome, one and all. I am Bloody Seymour. This is my friend.
Kuro, how you doing?
And today, released for this particular video, we're going to be discussing what you're seeing on screen, which is Final Fantasy X, which is, as much as this is going to be a controversial statement, my favorite Final Fantasy game.
One of my favorites too.
Now, he did not say his favorite, one of his favorites. It is
lot
my
of favorites.
favorite. No, this is actually my favorite Final Fantasy game. To be fair, it was also one of the first games I actually beat in this series. But I also played this game so much that my original disc got so scratched up that it would not play anymore. And I did that for my second disc as well. So, this game gets a lot of hate from the community.
Fair disclaimer before we start with anything, we will probably discuss spoilers. This is just
we
a
will be
discussion.
discussing a lot of spoilers.
So this is a fairly old game. So if you haven't played at this point, you should. Why are you watching this video for?
Why are you watching this video as your first experience of
Yeah,
this?
please just go play the game, come back, listen to this chat. We have a lot to discuss about this game.
Oh, well, more so our personal opinions on this game. Please, no one take this like this is the best game ever. This, because we see the problems. We know the problems. We understand the problems.
where?
We know the specific problem everyone has, because we have the same problem. But
Listen to my story.
to discuss this game
This
and not include
may be
those
our last
problems
chance.
would basically be to disservice the game itself. This game has a very powerful and moving story if you know the whole of it. But we're not going to get into that just yet. We're going to start off with just the basics. This game came out early 2000s to mediocre acclaim, I think it was. But it was a Final Fantasy game, so of course it was going to sell well. And it was also one of the first fully voice-acted games, if I remember correctly,
That's right, yeah. And,
to come out on a home
A lot
console.
of people forget that. A lot of people forget that this was the first Final Fantasy game to be voiced. So you gotta think early 2000s. Look at the graphics.
Like, this is the 4K up resolution, everything is polished to the nth degree version of it, but they're still using the basic format that they had back in the early 2000s for this game. Now, the textures for the original game were terrible. At the time, they were pretty good. This one looks a lot better, though.
I agree. And you know, one of the things I remember the opening scene that we just watched.
Can I have your
I remember
autograph?
being a teenager
Of course.
or a younger child and looking at it and saying, "Wow, this game looks so good."
Tonight.
I was
Nothing to worry
freaking out, especially on the second
Oh,
game
if I score a goal.
Final Fantasy X-2.
I'll,
That opening sequence where
do
they're doing the
this.
concert.
That will mean it was for you.
Yeah,
the
that's...
game looks so good. I think it doesn't look good. I'm sorry, it
What
doesn't look good
seat?
now.
Oh,
But
God,
back
no.
then, I will think to myself, "Oh my God, this game looks so good."
it.
And the voice acting was also something that at the time I was like, you know,
Can you
it's
sign
great that I can
No
hear them
problem.
speak instead of just reading. That for me was a big thing. That was a big
Alrighty.
change for me. A lot of people
Me too.
can disagree.
Take
Oh,
it easy.
yes, and we all know the specific part everyone hates, because we hate it too. The laughing scene, which we're not going to get to today. Trust me, that is just a little bit too far into the story for us to get into in a
Gotta
20,
go.
30
Cheer
minute
for
some odd
me.
video. But even still,
Teach us how to play.
if this game were completely silent
Hey, I got a
except
game
for
to play.
music, this game would have been heralded as one of the
Maybe
most,
tonight,
I won't say one of the most impactful Final Fantasy games, because clearly there are others out there. Final Fantasy 6,
I
7,
mean
8,
tomorrow.
10, not 10, this is 10, 9, like
Promise.
all those games have fantastic stories, and I'm not saying anyone has a bad story, I'm just saying like there are more impactful ones in the Final Fantasy series. But as an early 2000s game, with the story that's behind this and the emotion behind the characters, if you know the whole story, you know how sad and impactful every scene in this game is. Everything from the opening to the silly bits to the actual sad scenes, everything is just...
The drama scenes in this game are impactful. Imagine being 10 and playing this game for the first time.
I don't have to imagine. I did that, and holy cow,
Yeah,
was
but
I
all
blown
of the players
away!
that might have played it at an older age, and even the emotional
I was at a
impact.
coffee shop
And I'm
running
just gonna
away
go
from
full
home when I
spoilers
heard the
here.
news.
When you find
hero,
out the truth
checked,
about your dad,
gone,
the truth about
vanished into
yourself,
thin air.
The truth about everyone that you
Everything,
know.
exactly.
And his
It's
biggest
just
fan. I knew how sad he'd be.
such
Heck, we all were that
a
day.
big impact, you know. And
So
I
now I
remember
says to
not
myself,
wanting
what are
to
you
go to
thinking?
school the next day because
I
my
went running
head
straight
was
back
just
home. We sat up talking about
exploding with
Jack all
thoughts. I had
night.
so many things to talk
My
about. I
dad
had
and
so
I
many
never talked so
thoughts
much.
about
Whoa.
the game. I'm like,
Didn't mean
what
to
am I gonna
reminisce,
do now?
folks.
This is one of those games where,
Anyway,
once you
10
finish
years
it,
later, the Jack Memorial...
you really have a crisis in your life.
Make way,
Now-
make way!
I will say,
Coming through, sorry.
unfortunately, I did not actually finish this game, like
Hey,
get to the
I'm
actual
gonna be
end of
late.
it, until I was much older. I was
Hey,
somewhere
let go
around
of me.
15, 16 years old when I finally got to the end of this game. But when I first played this, every time I got to the point where my disc would finally stop working, it was such a beautiful game. The characters were so dramatic. These pre-rendered CGI scenes were so intense. Particularly this one with the metal music in the background, which you'll hear here in a minute. Like that first opening chord, was just amazing.
Yeah, now that he brought up the music composition in this game, it's good. It's good and it's different from the other Final Fantasies.
Because most of those were just like orchestral, soft strings. Very rarely did it go into the heavier things, except when it was boss tones, like One Winged Angel of Death from 7 or something like that. Like, most games kind of stayed in a very gentle, soothing pattern when it came to their scores. Or at least in the Final Fantasy series. Obviously, there were the battle and boss themes that were different, but for the world itself, they generally follow the same theme.
Agreed. So what were some of the things that you feel the game had the strongest points in?
Honestly, the writing of the actual characters. As goofy as some of the line delivery was, particularly the scene. Poor Waka. Unfortunately, the line delivery is kind of probably the weakest part of this game. But
You also have to remember this is early 2000s. It was a cheesy era.
oh yeah. Don't get me started on some of the ridiculous amounts of cheese involved in that early era. But just the writing for these characters. I love the battle system because I love hack and slash games. Don't get me wrong, but a game like this, like any Final Fantasy game that does either the active time system or the turn battle system, like they're always fun to me. Just because I have a minute, I can kind of think about the battles and so on and so forth. Not to saying that other games don't have merit to how they do things, this is just how I like to play.
And one of the things that I like about this was the game system. The way that you
The level up system in this game is glorious.
ingenious because it doesn't matter what character you decide to go with or focus on, you can pretty much level that character to the point that they can play any character.
Like, to give you an idea, this main character, who I refuse to call Tidus, even though that's apparently the canon way to call him, if you want to think about it, he's technically a warrior class. He uses a sword, he has a shield, and he generally does a lot of DPS when it comes to actually hitting things. If you do nothing but focus on him in battle, eventually he can learn Black Mage, White Mage, Sniper, super heavy hitting skills. anything that anyone can learn on the sphere grid, anyone else can learn. You can have your white mage, which you won't meet in this video, but whose name is Yuna, hitting for the same amount everyone else is.
It begins.
Hitting
And I think
physical
this is-
attacks.
And I think this is where this game really shines.
Don't cry.
One of the things where if you grow really attached to a character, let's say Juna for example, and she's really weak
In the early game.
in the early game,
Super squishy.
and the AI is very
What the?
with her to kill her early on, and if you have her as a party member,
Hey, wait!
This was a really good way to
Hey,
balance out the character.
not this way.
All characters are very good. Story makes you care so much. But even though they are put together because of the mission they have to do,
We called it
you
sin.
you feel it. You feel all those characters getting connected. And, but, Cool. There's
Her story is pretty sad.
a little bit of just the way that they play with something that I felt was
I will say the one contentious character that I really didn't particularly care for in this game, his name is Kimari. He is in this world's version of the cat people in any other Final Fantasy game, but he really is a blank slate for much of the game, and you really don't learn his story until super late game. And even then, it doesn't really make you like him very much.
that's true, but he's one of the ones that really late in the story.
No! Kimari, the blue lion dude.
Yeah.
No, he's part of your group basically after the first island.
Are you serious?
Yes.
Wow, I don't remember that.
You probably didn't use him very much.
I didn't use it. I'll be honest with you. I didn't use him very much. There were so many other characters that I liked more. And
Don't bother going
there was
after
nothing
all
wrong
of
with
them.
him as a character. He wasn't on my party. Lulu was always on my party.
Oh, Lulu is like you get double cast for her, and immediately she becomes the best character in the whole party. Immediately.
Especially early on the story. No, early on gameplay, she's just
A simple black mage, can't hit for nothing, but does a decent amount of damage with magic.
yeah.
So I mean, clearly a great character to have, because I don't think there's but maybe one or two enemies in the game that are resistant to all forms of magic. And even then, you get super late enough game, you get a spell called Demi, which cuts the enemy's health by a fourth anyway, so it doesn't really matter. So, I mean, having that black mage character in your group is kind of a necessity almost throughout the entire thing. Here's the Demi spell. See? You will never be killed by something that uses only Demi spell. I learned that the hard way.
Some can't wait to die.
Alright, okay. So we talked about a little bit about the story and things that we liked about the game. There's some most people have with the game.
Most of the complaints usually come down to the cheesiness and haminess of the actual line delivery. But then again, we just go back to the saying, like, it was the early noughties. It was like, you can't have a game or a movie or a TV show in that time period and it not be cheesy. Like, it's just... Sorry. Darn it. God bless. I can usually hit that one no problem, but apparently I'm having trouble today. But, like, it's hard to defend something that was kind of super prevalent at the time.
Okay, then the other is like everybody knows the voice acting wasn't the best.
That's what I was talking about, was the line delivery.
I mean, some of this stuff is just, it's not relevant. I don't think it's relevant to the game. I would like to hear more about the story, bringing characters like we talked about earlier. Like Himari wasn't the best character out of the bunch, but there's some really neat characters. There's some really good stories that
Like this dude in the red coat here, Orin. When you finally start seeing his past, particularly in this time period, or in this particular story, you find out that he was much different before a super tragic thing happens to him. And like, I don't want to spoil much, but I mean, he is literally part of a group that stops that literally stops a cycle of death in this world. And then he's the only one of the group of 3 people that makes it back, and he has to then continue on when his 2 friends are dead.
Alright, let's get out of here.
Like, this is how you write good characters. Each and every one of these characters,
Give me
even
a break,
Kimari,
man.
who's very much a stoic, silent, badass kind of character. Like, these are all well-written characters. They're all well-designed characters. Like, just looking at the character models for these, even back then, like, there were many characters that looked like this.
And I think that was one of the biggest selling points for this particular game. The character designs are just on point. They're different. They are unique, and that gets sales. I feel like that was one of the selling points for this game. Now, Bloody Seymour earlier mentioned something about the circle of death, which is the prevalent theme on this game, and I want to get a topic about this is game.
So we're gonna get into super spoiler alerts right here. So if you don't want these spoiler alerts, just skip past this. I think we're gonna provide some
This could
timestamps
be
before we
bad.
stop talking about it. But at the same time,
That. Knock it down.
this is your warning for spoilers for this game.
Trust me, you'll
Sorry.
see.
Continue.
All right, so as you find out, your father, or I should say, Sin.
Well, your father is Sin.
Exactly.
You find out later in the game that the big ultimate baddie of this game, which is known as Sin, which looks like this really ugly looking giant whale with wings and who knows what else, is actually your father, as the character Titus, is your father reborn as this ultimate being of death. And it is the summoner's duty to go out and defeat Sin and kill him, but only for 10 years, which is known as the Calm. Then Sin is reborn and the cycle starts anew. The problem with that is that this particular version of Sin is your father. The reason he disappeared when Titus's character was a child was because he went off to this world to defeat Sin. He did. But he didn't destroy Sin. There's a lot of very strange things that we may cover in a later video, but it ultimately comes up to the fact that you as Titus have to actually kill Sin. Not defeat it, causing a 10-year calm, but utterly destroy it.
And this brings a pretty good point on overall story of all these characters know that their mission that they're going for is a suicide mission, basically. They know that in order to stop Sin,
They will have to die.
they will have to die, sacrifice. And you know this, as the story progresses, you find out about
And
who is really a big plot point, who won't reveal to the rest of the characters that she will have to sacrifice herself.
in fact, to be completely honest, this is not Titus's story. As much as he likes to say it is his story, as much as Orin likes to tell him it's his story, it's not. It's Yuna's story. You happen to be along for the ride.
Yeah, and yeah, that really brings a different perspective. And like we mentioned earlier, everybody plays a part in the
Hey.
story. Everybody does their part, but
My
or you
old
find
man?
out that they'll have to die, or somebody will have to die. Who? You find out.
Yeah.
You really do. And this is what I was talking about earlier. This as a child, this was really a big shock for me. Just the different points. Not only just your father as sin, but the truth about
This
Titus.
I
this
thought
whole
about a lot of
world
things.
just like it's just
where I
insane to
was,
think that
what I got
you
myself
come into
into.
this world
I started
thinking
to
you're going to go
feel
back.
lightheaded.
For the entire
then
for about
sleepy.
half the game,
I think I had a
Titus
dream.
assumes
dream
that he's
of being
going
alone.
to
I
help
wanted someone,
defeat sin
anyone
and then go back
beside
home.
me, so I didn't
That
have
is not
to
the
feel alone
case.
anymore.
So
Find out, yeah.
it's just one of those things where it's just very, very impactful for the characters. So I don't even know where I'm trying to ramble at this point, but it's just one of those things where this game gets a lot of hate it really doesn't deserve. It's a game that has great characters and a great story. It's just the problem
Anybody
is
there?
the voice acting. Like, that's the biggest problem most people have, and I
Aaron!
could almost guarantee you that if this was like 9, 8, or 7, or even 6, where there was no voice acting and just a text crawl, that people would have loved this game. Like, that's really the biggest thing about this.
Yeah, I
It's like-
agree. I agree. Well, I think when we have come to an end on our discussion video here regarding Final Fantasy X. Again, if you agree or disagree, please let us know. If you have more issues in the story, or the characters, or anything that we discussed that we actually like about this, please comment, talk about it. We really want to know your opinion on it. If you agree, also just let us know. We want to know more people that agree on our take on Final Fantasy X. Well, thank you for watching, and I'm Kuro.
I'm Bloody Seymour, and it's nice for you to listen to us rambling for the past 20 or so odd minutes. So thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.